Welcome to chapter 39 of Confessions of a Pasty-Faced Masculine Organism. Actually, I'm not that masculine, as you guys are probably already aware of, but I am pasty-faced, and I am an organism, and I am running out of ways to start the podcast, so, this week's just going to be a real blokey podcast, one for the boys out there, one for all the fellas listening. This one's for you. We're going to talk about, I'm like you boys listening, I like drinking beer, I like V8 supercars, and I like punching my wife. And that's, it's going to be a real masculine. Now, that was a joke. I don't like beer and V8 supercars, but I fucking love punching my wife. So, now, I don't have a wife, so that's funny. So anyway, what was I going to talk about this week? Oh, the shows. The shows happened. So Sydney, this weekend I went to Sydney and Brisbane, and the two shows were incredible. The Sydney show was sold out, and the Brisbane one was also amazing. So I cannot thank everyone who came enough. Sorry, I think I'm like dying and a bit sick after the weekend after lack of sleep. Man, I was so tired. Just at the end, like I went home at Brisbane, and this is what happened actually. This after the show, I had the biggest freak out of all time. So I talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the podcast. I bought a new really expensive camera, and I brought it on tour with me, and just to film some of the stuff for the shows. And after you got so much shit with you at the venue, you've got all the merch stuff and thing on, and it's just me and Emily. And who's my girlfriend, and she's fucking amazing, man. Thank you so much to Emily. You guys would have met her if you bought merch and met me after the show. She just, I don't know what I would have done. I would have been so screwed if Emily wasn't there, because she's running around doing all this shit at the venue, because the people at the venue are fucking incompetent. I don't care. I'm gonna trash the Brisbane venue. Fuck them. I'm not going back next year. There was a heavy metal band playing through the wall. So like, at 8, they didn't tell me this, right? At 8:20, so my show started at 7:30. I had Josh Wade, a good friend of mine, ex-guest of the podcast. He was opening. He did about 10 minutes at the start, so it probably started 5 minutes late. He finished about 7:45, and my show goes for an hour, right? And the venue knew this. This is going to be an angry podcast, right? And the venue knew this. My show started at 7:45. And which means it goes to 8:45, and he had booked a heavy metal band to play in the band room next door. So the layout of the venue is, there's a theater on one side, which is where I'm doing my little comedy show in the nice theater, and there's like a band venue, like a band room just within the wall is probably like 30 centimeters. Okay, so you can hear like the heavy metal band just doing screamo, like you can just hear do, 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 do. And they were doing sound check when we were doing sound check, and I'm like, fucking hell, is this going to be playing when I'm on stage? And the venue's like, oh yeah, they start at 8:20, and I'm like, I'll finish at 8:45. And then sure enough, like halfway through a joke about the fucking Bachelor, and then you hear, and then just coming through the wall, and I'm just like, yeah, this is like, it's just classic first year, doing whatever venue you can find that I can afford and stuff, and every performer does it, and I cannot thank every single person who comes out and supports me at this stage of my career, because the venues I'm doing, actually, you know what, the Perth and Adelaide venues will be actually great. Actually, no, the Sydney venue was also great. It's just this one. The room's nice. It's like a nice theater and stuff, but just, I don't know, whoever's running that place, fucking hell, mate. Anyway, I shouldn't be saying this shit. Whatever. The Sydney place was great. The people were helpful at the venue. The room was nice. It was awesome. And the Perth place is an actual comedy club, which is great. And same with the Adelaide place. So yeah, the other two places are comedy clubs. That's great. But Brisbane just sounded like a Metallica cover band was getting fucked by Satan through the wall. And that's all I could think about. I was just like, this is the worst music. And it was funny because the people who were in the metal band, there was one green room connecting the two rooms. There was a huge, giant backstage area, which means I was sharing it with all these, like, death metal people, and like they're all like putting on their like eyeliner and makeup, and they're all doing their hair like, cause it's like a glam death metal band, and they're all like got their, you know, like those guitars that have like they're like V guitars and stuff. They all like had this thing, and they were wearing giant big commando boots, which they were like lacing up. And they were like, "Oh, are you doing a show next door?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like, and I was just standing there in a t-shirt and jeans, talking to like just sitting by myself. And then Josh Wade came in. We were just sitting there talking, and they're like, "Oh, what's your show? Like, is your show later on? Are you guys not ready yet?" And I was like, "No, I just don't dress like a member of Kiss when I go on stage." Like, what? It's comedy. They're like, "Oh, right. So you just wear that?" And I'm like, "Yeah. Sorry, I forgot my Dracula costume tonight. Okay, next time I'll be sure to bring it, Brisbane. If that's what you're about." But anyway, so that was a thing. Other than that, though, the show was absolutely amazing. But you know what? Having little things like that happen in the night, I think it makes it special, and it makes it more interesting. You know, I was making jokes about it, and no one cares. That's the thing. Everyone in the audience was like, "Lol, this is shit." Like, there's a death metal album playing through, but it made it like I think a comedy show is the only place where, you know, you can properly, like, stuff can fuck up and it can actually make the show better. So like at the end of the day, it was fine. I was just mad beforehand. So anyway, after the show, which was the story I started talking about 5 minutes ago, I bought a new camera, right? Very expensive camera. And obviously, because I'm an idiot, I always lose stuff, right? And it's like a thing I do. Like, I've lost really expensive things in the past. And I was kind of scared bringing the camera on the tour. I was like, no, I'll be careful. I'll make sure I've got it everywhere. It'll be fine. And I was just hit a point of exhaustion after all that stuff happened, like the band and stuff. And I just done 2 shows, and I was just exhausted. I've been traveling all day. And I was like, wow. I think I just got overwhelmed, and we were filming on the camera like a little post-show wrap-up thing for a YouTube, like, you know, tour documentary thing. And I must have put the camera down. I left the venue thinking I had the camera in my backpack. We went and got food from like the 7-Eleven nearby because there was no food around. And then me and Emily, we walked back to the room, and our room where we're staying, and we were back at our place, and I was like, you know, I ate food, and we're talking about the show for about 20 minutes probably. And then I was like, "Oh, where's the camera?" And I was like, "Oh shit!" So we started ripping open our suitcase, throwing clothes all over the floor. We were just freaking out, going, "It's not here!" Looking under the bed, like, "It's not here!" We ripped apart, like, turned the whole place upside down. I was like, "Oh my god, I must have left it outside 7-Eleven." And if you're in Brisbane, that street where the show was on is in Fortitude Valley. Like, the valley is like it's like the whole bit of Brisbane. It's just like, it's the shit part. Right, so I was like, oh, freaking out, and I put on my shoes as quick as possible, and I ran. I've never ran so fast in my entire life, and I was running down the street, and when like, you see a dude running, for some reason, other dudes just start yelling, "Run, Forrest, run!" Like, it's just the thing to yell out at someone sprinting down the street. Like, girls get honked by cars when they're running on the side of the road. Guys just get 90s Tom Hanks films yelled at them across the street. And everyone's like, "Run, Forrest, run." And I was like, I don't give a fuck. This is like this is like camera. It wasn't even how expensive the camera was. It's all the footage I had from the tour. I'm like, it's all going to be gone. Holy shit. And I was freaking out, and I looked at 7-Eleven, and it wasn't the kind of place where I'm like, oh, I wonder if anyone's handed it in. Like, there was 4 dudes getting arrested up against the wall outside 7-Eleven. There was like all these buskers there, people drunk. There was vomit right where I thought I'd left the camera, and I was like, man, it's not here anymore. Someone's taken it. Shit. I asked the dude at 7-Eleven, and when I was asking the dude where my camera is at 7-Eleven, there was a folded up "You Don't Owe Me" top, one of my t-shirts behind the counter. And I was like, and I was also wearing my "You Don't Owe Me" t-shirt still from the show, and the guy's like, "Hey, you're wearing the same shirt." And I was like, "Yeah, where did you get that shirt from?" And he's like, "Some guy came in and said, can you mine this for a bit?" So someone who came to my show, your shirt, if you're listening to this, your shirt ended up in the 7-Eleven behind the counter at Fortitude Valley. So if you want to go pick it up, it's still behind the counter, probably. So anyway, I saw one of my shirts there. Then I was freaking out. I was like, it's not here. So I went back to the venue, started looking around the theater where I performed, and I was like, where would I left it? I found it at the sound desk of the theater. But you know what's weird? I don't remember putting it there. I think someone picked it up and moved it. Anyway, it was probably the biggest, like, you know, like in 10 minutes when you lose something and it's like the most stressful 10 minutes of your life. It was that. And afterwards I just walked home like so slowly and I was like calm and I was like, oh my God, I just almost lost something that's worth like $2,000 to me. Like, I don't make that much of comedy and I just dropped like over $2,000 on a new camera. I didn't want to lose that shit. Anyway, that was a scary moment that happened and it was just because I was purely just exhausted after the show and I forgot the thing that was like most precious to me and I was like, oh, I'll just walk home, I'll just eat my pie on the way home. Anyway, what else happened during the week? I recorded a podcast at the Hit 105 FM studios, which is like Fox FM if you're in Melbourne. It's like the old stereo studios, so that was really cool to go kind of check out the behind the scenes of commercial radio and stuff. And I recorded a podcast with Dom from Collective Noun. If you're not familiar with them, you might have seen their videos on Facebook going around. They're great, and they're also on radio every single night. I think Monday to Thursday on the Hit Network, which is Hit 105 in Brisbane. I think it's Today FM in Sydney, Fox FM in Melbourne, whatever. They're on 11 p.m, so go check out their show. It's really great, and thank you very much for Dom for having me. It was really good fun. So you guys will hear that episode of this podcast in a few weeks. Dom is a true white guy, okay? He is like the definition of like what this podcast is about, essentially. Like, he makes me look cultured. We talked about his top 10 favorite cheeses for 10 minutes, and you probably think, oh, it sounds shit. It was exhilarating conversation. So I'm sure you're all excited now for that podcast. It was great. So thank you very much, Dom, for having me. What else happened? In Sydney, I did a couple of gigs just to warm up for the two shows around town, which was great. Oh, this was funny. On Wednesday night, I did a gig in Manly, which is like half an hour away from Sydney. And also happening on the Wednesday night was the State of Origin match in the rugby. If you're not familiar with that, it's where New South Wales plays Queensland in rugby. And pretty much the only two states that give a fuck about it is New South Wales and Queensland. I'm from Melbourne, and I'll be honest, I didn't realise the game was on until I got to Manly. And everyone was dressed in blue. Every pub was full, except the pub that I was doing my gig at. Like, all these people, like, it was the hardest thing to sell. I was watching the dude who opened for my show, Pat. If you saw the Sydney show, you would have seen Pat. He's great. He was trying to like, hey guys, we've got live comedy on tonight. And all these people were like, just genuinely laughing at him like that was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. They were just like, but the game's on. And like, although one dude said, I'll admit, dude, that was pretty fucking funny. I might come back next week. But they were just laughing at the fact that, oh, you actually think we're going to come in here and watch a little comedy show when the fucking game's on, mate. You have got to be... Like, people were looking at him like he was just... I felt so bad for him. But anyway, it was still a great night. It was cool gigging in another state. What else? Oh, then the next day, Emily and I went to Taronga Zoo, which is the zoo in Sydney. And I know what you're thinking. This is going to be an absolute fat bird bonanza. And I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I'm going to walk in, I'm going to pay my $40, walk in, and then I'm just going to be looking at fat birds by the flock. I'm like, I'm going to have to do a podcast every single day this week to get through that amount of content. And I saw one fat bird. You know why? Because the zookeepers are great at their jobs and they know the dietary requirements of each bird. So they feed them the right amount, which means there's no wing flap. What? It's like, do you know what I'm buying a ticket for to the zoo? Like, you know your audience, okay? No one's coming here to see a healthy bird. No one's coming here to see a bird with a long life expectancy, okay? People are coming here to see a fat elephant, which is just an elephant. I'm sorry, elephants, but you're all just fat, okay? Even, like, if someone's like, oh, this is a fit looking, this is a healthy elephant, I'm like, well, tell that to his bloody muffin top, all right? Because it's overhanging, okay? Tell that to, like, elephants are some of the most wrinkliest, like, they all look old. There was a baby elephant there, and it looked like an 80-year-old man. Okay, it was just in between the mother's legs and it was tiny. But I'm like, it looks like, have anyone seen that film Benjamin Button, where like the guy gets born really old? I'm like, man, you look like a grandpa and you're a week old. Okay, like elephants are just, anyway, that's not my beef. My beef was with the zookeepers for keeping their birds in tip-top shape. Okay, I don't want to be seeing like a bird that can fly without having a cardiac arrest, or a bird that doesn't have a heart attack. Like, if that bird's not like 3 weeks away from death, honestly, I'm not interested. I'll be honest. I'm like, that's why I paid $40 and all you've given me is a giraffe. I'm like, great. You know, you don't see a giraffe every day, but you also don't see a fat bird every day. I haven't seen one since the golf club. I mean, I get sent them all the time on Snapchat, but they're never as fat. It's like, oh, Luke, here's a fat bird. And it's like, that's a chunky bird. Maybe it's a bird with a bit of width and a bit of girth around the gut and the wings, but that's not a fat bird. Okay, you don't know a fat bird until I've been sent a few fatties, and well done to the people who spotted them. But it's like Peter. You know, Peter's like a girthy bird. Peter Pigeon is a girthy pigeon, but I wouldn't call him a fat bird. You know, lots of people at the shows will be like, dude, how good's Peter? I mean, I've been freezing him out. Don't worry, but you know, Peter Pigeon, pretty good fat bird. And I'm like, I'm just going to stop you right there, hombre. Okay, Peter has got girth, but he wishes, okay, he needs to eat the fuck up if he wants to be in that realm of fatness that, you know, this podcast and this community, you know, it desires. Anyway, the reason why I brought up Taronga was not to talk about the fat bird phenomenon that's obviously the craze at the moment, but I encountered, in fact, another phenomenon, which is just, I mean, very fortunate for the content of this podcast, because it's like, it's almost like whenever ideas are running low, the universe and the stars just align, and I get blessed with yet another brilliant animal-related observation that I think Emily made this observation, actually, and I was just like, wow, I've never noticed that before. And the phenomenon I'm talking about, and the phenomenon that I encountered at the zoo, was animals wearing their lunch. So many animals walking around wearing their lunch. And I don't know if the animals know, like, I don't know if they're doing it on purpose. I assume they are, because the frequency in which I saw this behavior at the zoo, once I kind of noticed it, it was everywhere. Animals just walking around. Oh, got a bit of like, I saw a turtle wearing lettuce as a hat. I just became obsessed, like, so quickly. Like, all these other people were like, oh, you know, the seal show's at 1 p.m. We must go. And I was like, yeah, but will it be wearing fish as a hat? And I'm like, I just became obsessed with animals wearing their lunch. It's all I could think about the whole day. Like, I walked past this goat, and I like, you know, there was the other ones climbing the mountain, and I'm like, not interested. Then there was this one in the corner eating hay. Sure enough, it finished its meal. I waited till it finished its meal, and then he kind of like dived into the hay and then like nestled up against it, which means to think I think he's doing it on purpose. And then as he walked away, the hay just stuck to his back as a coat, and I'm like, it's a goat wearing its lunch. And everyone else just thought I was a psychopath. But I mean, can you blame me? Like, by the end of the day, I just wasn't interested in an animal unless it had its lunch on its head or its upper body, or wearing. I saw a pygmy hippo wearing the leaves it was eating as pants, and it made my fucking day. I was like, yep. And then we got to, like, you know, the giraffes, and those people like, wow, look at the giraffe, its neck's so big, and what a magnificent creature. And I was like, yeah, but it's not wearing that carrot as a scarf. So I just wasn't impressed. I was like, yeah, but I saw a turtle with lettuce on its head. I think any like small reptile wearing its lunch beats like lion or tiger. I mean, because you've got this little reptile like clearly making an effort into his appearance and his look by, you know, putting a little piece of, you know, lettuce or like carrot or whatever on his head, and you're like, that's a nice little headpiece. And then you've got this big tiger just sitting there thinking, oh, I'm a tiger, I can just sit here sedated dribbling on tourists, because it's like a white people tiger, because obviously they don't let you near the tiger unless it's fucking off to sleep in another universe, because that's how zoos work anyway. Like, it's like, you know, a dream world, like, oh, I've got a photo of the tiger. You're like, dude, that tiger didn't know you were there. That tiger was off with the fucking fairies, or it would have eaten your face. Okay? I mean, like, anyway, the point is, the tiger doesn't feel like it has to make an effort. I mean, if you start wearing raw meat as a beret, I'd be impressed and want a picture with you. But if you're just going to sit there sedated, dribbling on yourself, and take photos with tourists, I'd much rather hanging out with the little lizard wearing a carrot on his head, all right? Because at least he's putting in effort. And that's why I think this week, my question to you guys is, in the past I've asked, what's the worst thing you've ever been caught for? Pretty clickbait title, pretty interesting. Oh, these are going to be some edgy stories. Then I was like, oh, what's your worst fear or phobia? Everyone's like, oh man, that's going to be really interesting. Even more so this week, when have you seen an animal wearing its lunch? I want to know. During the week, if you spot your dog wearing its pedigree as moccasins, send me a pic. All right, I want to see it. I want to see your cat wearing its mashed up food as slippers. Okay, that's exactly the kind of shit that's the kind of content that drives this podcast, okay? Animals wearing their lunch. Like, I don't know, if you have a guinea pig, I don't even know what guinea pigs eat, actually, but I want to see, that's the thing, I'll find out by seeing a guinea pig wearing what they eat as a cape, okay? That's exactly the kind of content that I'm looking forward to receiving this week, guys. So send it in. Animals wearing their lunch. I should move on. But goddamn, it was the best day out at the zoo. Because you know what? I think I was dealing with a bit of, I thought there'd be way more fat birds. This sucks. And then I was like, oh wait, was that a turtle wearing lettuce as a hat? And then I think Emily did coin the phrase animals wearing their lunch. Because I think she just said, oh, it's wearing its lunch as a hat. And then I was like, oh my God, there's heaps of animals wearing their lunch as a hat. Let's take photos of them all. I'll try and find a photo of the sheep. I think I took a picture of the goat sheep thingy, taking its, wearing its hay as a coat. Anyway, so that's enough animal stuff for 1 week. I think we've all hit our animal intake. I've been mentioning Emily came on the tour with me, so thank you very much to her. I don't know what I would have done, and you guys would have met her and stuff after the shows, but when you hang out with like the same person over and over, you just start coming out with trash to each other, and like we hang out a fair bit anyway, so it's like, we're often throwing out trash ideas. But one of the better quotes of the weekend, it was just really silent on the plane. I was listening to my tunes, and then she just like nudges me. And then I pull out my headphones. She's like, oi, imagine if you named your kid after a Zupa Duper flavor. See, this is why condoms were invented. Okay? No. Imagine if you named your kid after a Zupa Duper flavor. We did Zupa Duper flavors a few weeks ago on this podcast. So you guys know, okay? And I was like, what do you mean, imagine if you named your kid after a Zupa Duper flavor? She's like, well, imagine if you, named your kid, Fairy Floss Forcefield. And I was like, why would you ever name your kid that? She's like, that's what I mean. You try and imagine. And I was like, wow, we've hit a point now in our relationship where anything is on the cards. Like, you don't even have to say anything. And then we just started to, talking about, oh, imagine if you called your little daughter Deep Space Lime. Oh man, could you imagine that? But then I at the start I was like, oh my God, that's one of the dumbest things she's ever said. And then by the end I was like, holy shit, imagine if you did call your kid Cola Cosmos. Oh my God, that you'd be the worst parent of all time. Or Space Pineapple. Holy shit. Anyway, so that's the kind of level of conversation that touring gets, because it's just ages in airports and always traveling around from place to place, and then you just, while you're commuting together, you clearly have way too much time on your hands, because that honestly is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. It's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard come out of anyone's mouth. But anyway, that amused me. I just wanted to share that to you, that sentence got said during the week. Imagine if you named your kid after a Zupa Duper flavor. No, I've never imagined that, and I don't think I ever will again. So let's do the fun fact now, guys. Let's strap in for a buttload of fun. Are you ready? If you weren't having fun with animals wearing their lunch, which I can't even fathom how that doesn't make you happy, but if that wasn't good enough for you, then don't worry, now we're about to do the fun fact, okay? Now, last week's fun fact, I got absolutely roasted during the week, absolutely destroyed, because if you listened, I forgot to put in the fun fact horn. So that was just a fact, an awkward lull, and then no horn. So we don't want that happening again this week. So I'm going to pause the podcast, put in the horn, because I don't want to blue ball you all again with no horn. I got roasted during the week in the group. Some dude said, Patrick posted a picture of just my head up close saying, when you're getting ready for the fun fact horn, but you get blue balled because Luke forgot to edit it in. So thanks, Patrick, for that. This week, I'm going to stop the podcast, edit in the horn, because I don't want that to happen again, because I just can't be bothered. The amount of hate I got on Snapchat for that. You didn't put in the fun fact horn. No shit. I know now. Like, you're not the first. And people, they roast you like it's the first time you've been called out on it this week. I'm like, dude, the podcast came out on Monday. You're messaging me on Thursday night saying I didn't put in the fun fact horn. I'm like, you're like the 70th person to hit me up with that. So thank you for your cutting edge observation. You're about 3 weeks late. Oh no, 5 days. All right, that was an exaggeration. So, all right, this week's fun fact. There's no honorable mentions this week. We're just gonna have a lot of fun at once. We're gonna condense the fun this week. Just condensed fun fact, and then I'll pause. I'll put in the fun fact horn. Then we can all start, blowing off our party poppers and whatever. So, okay, the fun fact. This one was sent in by Aiden, so thank you, Aiden. During the 1995 and 1997 famines in North Korea, the starving peasants dug up and ate human bodies. So that's a pretty fun. Sound the fun fact horn! So that was your fun fact horn. Yeah, I'm glad you got it there. Did you hear it? Did you hear the horn? No, you didn't, because I didn't put it in. You don't deserve a horn, Patrick. I intentionally didn't put it in this week, because you all complained last week, and you know what? Life's not fair. That's an important lesson to learn. So, you know what? I'm going to sound a horn. Okay, I'm going to play a horn, but it's for all the people who didn't complain last week. It's all the people who went, oh, whoops, he just forgot to put in the horn. At the shows, at the meet and greet, after the shows, I was meeting people like, hey, thanks for coming to the show, getting photos with people, signing their posters. I was midway signing a poster, and the guy's just like, oi, you forgot to put in the horn. And I'm like, mate, I'm doing you a favor. I'm signing your poster for you. Can you quit roasting me about my lack of horns? Okay, I didn't appreciate that. Anyway, so here's a fun fact horn for all the people who didn't complain. Patrick, turn off the podcast right now. You don't deserve it, all right? Sound the fun fact horn for all the people who aren't mean to me. There, see, I was crying through the fun fact horn this week. I mean, I still had fun while I was crying, obviously, because it was a fun fact. What was the fact again? I feel like the fact was so long ago now that I briefly stopped having fun and started crying. I'm going to read the fact again to liven the mood up because, sorry, I got a bit angry at all the people who started roasting me. All right, so it was during the 1995 and 1997 famines, that's right, in North Korea, the starving peasants dug up and ate human bodies. Yeah, so now I'm having fun again. Sorry, guys. I just had to remind myself as to why I do this segment, the joy that it gives me every week. But, yeah, they dug up human bodies. That is a fact. So imagine like being so poor that you're like, oi, mummy, what's for breakfast? And she's like, oh, today we're having Grandpa Bob. Oh, man, that's horrible. But like, but imagine, that like they dug up and ate, like they probably ate like people that they knew. Like, oh, like, do you reckon, like, and then they would start eyeing each other off. Like, when you die from starvation, you're going to be a tasty treat. Like, you're going to be a dessert. And, like, there's some people who are a bit small, so they're just an entree. There'd be no fatties, though, if they're all starving peasants. But, couldn't you eat, surely you could eat, like, a dead animal as opposed to a dead human. But anyway, a lot of fun still. So let's just move on from that fun. And, Oh, okay. Where's this podcast going this way? All right, let's do some questions now. I don't think, did I have anything more to talk about the shows? I mean, on a serious note, the shows were absolutely probably the two funnest shows I've ever done. The Sydney one was sold out, which was really cool. Had a drunk lady, Desley. That was annoying. I'm not going to edit in any footage. I haven't sorted through the Sydney footage yet, but I think I've got a bit of audio from Brisbane. I don't know. I don't think I'll put it in just because, I'd rather you see the show live. And I've still got Perth and Adelaide to go this weekend. So if you're from Perth and Adelaide, get down because there's still some tickets left. Not many left to Perth. Adelaide no longer hates me anymore, which is good. People actually bought tickets, thank God. It took way too long for you guys. It took like a month for people to buy tickets. Anyway, yeah, but I can see, like, now my podcast host, Omni, lets me see how many people from each state listen to the podcast. So, like, I can see that people listen to this podcast from Adelaide, and therefore I see you when you're not buying tickets. I don't see you. I see a number on a screen, and there's a lot more people who listen to this podcast from Adelaide that have bought tickets to the show. So, I don't know, have a darn good look at yourself, and I hope I see you there. It's when is it? It's on the 13th, and Perth is on June 11th. I know my dates. I'm proud of myself. Anyway, let's do what was I talking about? Yeah, let's do questions now. Let's do questions. Oh wait, I had an honorable mention for the fun fact that I forgot to do. It was terrible. It was sent in by Ben Johnson, and I only put in the honorable mention so I can trash him. He said a penis is like a penis. Now, the reason, thank you for the contribution, Ben. The reason why I bring it up is because he's not wrong. I mean, a penis is like a penis. Actually, a penis is a penis. It's exactly a penis. Now, there's two things that are funny about this. A, his name's Ben Johnson, so Johnson is another word for penis. That amused me because I'm a child. And B, what the fuck you doing, man? You sent out an email. So you typed in my whole email. Like, you went to your email account. You logged in and you were like, oh, I want to contribute to the podcast. I don't know how. I'll just say something about dicks and I bet he'll read it out. And I hate that you were right because it got my attention. I get sent a lot of trash in on this podcast, and most of it is on Ben Johnson level trash. But this was like a whole nother level where I'm like, wow, I have to show you guys the absolute bottom of the barrel, things that get sent into me. And maybe I should do that this week, an honorable mention for the shittest bit of contribution during the week. Ben Johnson came in clear winner this week with a penis is like a penis. Yeah, he wasn't wrong, but it's just, I don't know what you want me to do with that, Ben. Anyway, let's do questions. The first one is from Jacob. He said, "G'day, Luke. I'm Jacob. I met you at your Brisbane show. My auntie was the smoker you called out. Really loved your show and loved meeting you last night. I'm keen to see your tour next year." Thank you very much, Jacob. I remember your auntie. Actually, I'll put in that bit of audio, okay? So, that was rude as. So, it was 18 plus, so he brought his auntie along with him so he could come to the show, I think. And she just, she kept getting up and down to piss, and then she went outside, and I thought they were latecomers, and turns out that she was just going outside for a cigarette. Anyway, here is the audio of what happened at the show.
Are you guys late? Thanks for coming.
No, they're being here all the time.
Oh, I don't believe you.
We sent for a cigarette.
Oh, fuck you. Like, cancer is better than me. Like,
same thing. So, yeah, that's what happened. I think someone just yelled out, I heard in that audio, same thing. Were you calling me cancer as well? What a shit heckle, alright? Your heckle was cancer. Alright, I didn't hear that at the time, but, anyway, that was pretty funny. So, thank you very much for bringing your auntie, man. That was cool. I think she ended up enjoying the show anyway, which was great. Anyway, Jacob said, I'm 16 and currently in grade 11. I'm the type of guy that treats everyone like family and takes everything to heart. Oh, well, you sound very nice, but also sound like a bit of a sook. I've been with my group of friends since day one of high school, but lately I've been feeling left out and I don't get the respect that I give. The only people I like have left schools or are about to. I have goals in life and I'm trying through school. I used to go every day, but now I rarely go because I hate the feeling of being neglected. To make things worse, most of my friends are into drugs and partying every weekend, and I am not so much. People see my group as scummy, and I'm afraid I'm getting dragged down by my friends. I've known them for so long, and I don't know what to do. My question is, should I try and find a new group of friends and risk being dropped completely, or stay with the group and try and fit in? Love your work, man. You were the first comedy show I've ever been to, and I'll keep coming every year. Very keen for your next year's show in Brisbane. Thank you very much, Jacob. I'm super glad you enjoyed the show, and that's cool as that it was your first ever comedy show. I'm glad I could take your comedy virginity from you. That's great, man. That's really cool. So yeah, you're having trouble with your friends. You think, well, dude, it sounds like you know your friends. From what you've said, it sounds like you kind of know your friends aren't the best fit for you anymore. And I know it must be so hard. It's scary trying to meet new friends, and it's because it doesn't happen straight away. And it's scary trying to cut people out of your life because you're like, what if I have no one? But I think you sound like a really nice guy, and you sound like you're really nice to everyone. I feel like you won't have trouble finding the right people, finding similar people to you who treat everyone like family and stuff like that. I think you sound like you're very, you're self-aware that, I think you could make new friends. You sound like I remember meeting you, Jacob, and you were really nice. So I don't think you'll have any trouble making new friends. But at the same time, I do understand how hard it must be to drop all your friends from your whole childhood and move on. I think once you finish high school, you'll be surprised that the people who you're not particularly wanting to be friends with anyway kind of fall out of your life once you finish high school. And anyone who's finished high school listening to this, I reckon could back that up. Whereas after high school, you have to make an effort to hang out with the people that you want to hang out because you don't see them every day at school. Everyone goes off and does their careers and stuff, and you have to message them and be like, hey, I want to hang out this weekend and stuff to keep those friendships alive. And I feel like, they'll go off and, party every weekend or whatever. And if you're not into that, then you're going to have a bit of a fallout after high school anyway. So my advice would be, you said, should I try and find a new group of friends? I think yes. You're worried that, you're also aware that they're dragging you down. And I think it's really important in life that you don't let other people hold you back. I've never let anyone hold me back. Like, even whether it's your parents not agreeing what you're doing or whatever. I've never let anything stop me from what I wanted to do. I've never let anyone stop me. So I think you should definitely try and find a new group of friends. And don't be dicks to them. Just stop hanging out with them if you don't enjoy their company anymore. And you can still be nice to them. Don't stop being nice to them. Just, go off and find some new friends, and you might end up becoming closer with your new friends, and you might just slowly transition into a new friendship group. But I understand how hard that is in high school when everyone's in their own little groups at recess, and you are with your shit dickhead mates, and you're like, I don't want to be here anymore, but you can't go over to another group. Have you got any friends from outside of school, man? Like, your family friends or whatever? Maybe you could, squeeze into another friendship group. I think when you start to get above 16, 17, friendship groups are, at least from our school and stuff, often shifted where people would move down, depending on who they wanted to hang out with or not. And people would kind of find each other. Some of my best friends now, I didn't know when I was 16. You know what I mean? Like, I'm 21 now, and I met some of my bestest friends in the world now 2 or 3 years ago. So I think you'll end up finding the people who you get along with. It'll just take time, man. But yes, to answer your question, I think you should find a new group of friends and risk being dropped completely by your mates. Instead of sticking around with what sounds like your dead shit mates and trying to fit in and wasting another 2 years of your life not enjoying school. It sounds like that started to happen anyway, so why would you waste fucking 2 years of your life when you can move on from them? I think that's the best option. I hope it all works out for you, Jacob, but that is my advice. Find new mates. They sound shit. The next one is from another Luke. So it's a Luke talking to a Luke. I don't know why that's weird, by the way, when other people have the same name as you and you shake their hand and they're like, hi, Luke. And I'm like, oh, also Luke. And then you do this stupid thing where you go, haha, same name. And you're just like, why the fuck did we say that? Like, yes, we have the same name. It's a fairly common name. Like, Luke's in the Bible. It's a common name. I shouldn't get excited when I meet another Luke. I know heaps of other Lukes. But every time I meet one, I'm like, we got the same name. And why do we do that little back and forth where we're like, what a crazy coinky dink. Anyway, so this is from Luke. Hey, Luke, same name. Sorry, mate. Forgot to send this to you last week. I have spectrophobia, which is a fear of mirrors. Okay, so last week we did your worst fear/phobia, and this is Luke's fear. I have spectrophobia, which is a fear of mirrors. I can't look at them. I know the fucking hilarious joke is to say, you can't look at your own reflection. You know what? I was going to say that, so you beat me to the punch, and to some extent it is. Wait, so he can't look at his own reflection. But, and they said, but I just feel some creepy shit is going to jump out at me every single time I look into the mirror. Like Satan himself will pop out and slice me up or something. So I have to clean my teeth outside of my bathroom. Wow, it's all thanks to Bloody Mary. Cheers, Luke. Holy shit. That's not really a question. That's just you telling me about your thing. But that's crazy, man. So, the only movie I've ever seen where, like, the only horror movie I've ever seen where something's jumped out of a mirror, I think it was Nightmare on Elm Street, the new one, where at the end the demon lady or whatever it is. Oh, no, Nightmare on Elm Street's Freddy Krueger. I think, I don't know, something pops out of the mirror and at the end, it's like a jump scare. So you literally think your life is a horror movie, so you can't look in mirrors. Can you look in reflections of, like, buildings, of glass? Or is it just, HD quality mirrors that freak you out? But, yeah, that's a weird fear, man. I think that's just about it for the correspondence this week. Thank you very much for those questions. Keep sending in your questions if you've got one. I think I'm going to end the podcast there this week, guys, because I don't want to drag it out for too long. The recent podcasts have been very long, and I shat on too much this week about animals wearing their lunch. So, actually, I don't think I talked enough about that. Can you please send me pictures of animals wearing lunch during the week? I really want to see that. Oh, actually, before I wrap it up, we should do a bit of a really quick update about the Peter Pigeon situation. So, firstly, good freeze out, everyone. Really good freeze out. Last week, I asked you all, can we all freeze out Peter Pigeon this week? And boy, we did a good job. I got Snapchats of people unfriending, refusing to like, restraining to like Peter Pigeon's Facebook statuses, which I know is incredibly hard to do because they're so great. But this week, freeze out's off. We're back. Get around Peter, because firstly, the freeze out didn't work. I didn't get contacted by Peter. I'm no closer to getting Peter on the podcast. But what I'm thinking is, I do have a plan. I didn't want to come in this week without a plan. Obviously, I'm still trying to get Peter on the podcast. It'd be the best guest interview of all time. I think we all can understand that, right? But you've got to have a plan with these things. You can't get your A-list celebs like Peter on just by shooting him a quick inbox, clearly, because I've tried. Here's the plan, guys. And tell me if I'm being crazy. Tell me if this is a too out there idea. But I think instead of trying to get Peter to come to us, we come to Peter. Now, we know one thing. Peter, on Peter's Facebook page, he lives at the Yarra River in Melbourne, which is just behind Flinders Street Station along Burong Ma. Now, if I'm going to enter in a full-fledged and fully committed Peter Pigeon hunt, I don't want to do it alone, because I think, this hunt needs more manpower. I can't do it on my own, all right? I'm only one man trying to find one bird, okay? We need multiple people on this hunt. Now, this is my dream, and tell me if I'm being crazy during the week. Tell me if this is an outlandish idea, but I think it's a foolproof plan to get the Peter Pigeon to join me and us. It's more us on this podcast, Memoirs of a White Guy. What a glorious day. What a triumphant day that would be to be joined by the infamous. I mean, I feel like he's infamous because I feel like he's off the grid. He's kind of a shady pigeon, but that's what we like about him. He's a bit rough around the edges, Peter. But here's my dream, and here's my vision. And you guys can tell me if I'm being crazy, because it's quite a ambitious idea. But I think, and I would love to, do a live bird watching episode of the podcast at Peter's house, at the Yarra River in Melbourne. Now, I can't do this alone, all right? I can't be there sitting by myself with binoculars. It's going to be a group effort. So if you're from Melbourne, we're going to work out a time in the Facebook group, time and a date, where in the next few weeks, whatever, I'm fully committed to doing this. We're going to go down. We can do it during the day or night. We'll see whatever suits everyone best. And we'll hunt for Peter Pigeon. We're going to get him on the podcast. This is the last stand, all right? I've messaged him. I've messaged the guy. I've messaged the people who run the Peter page. And look, I've heard back from the people who run the page, but, you know, they don't know where Peter is anymore, okay? And I think the only way to find him, instead of waiting around for, you know, it could be weeks, it could be a year, it could be a decade, it could be a century. You don't know, you know, Peter could be, you know, an immortal bird. We don't know. It's Peter Pigeon, all right? He's a mystery. He's an enigma. So instead of waiting around for him to come to us, let's go to him. I'm thinking of doing it behind Birong Ma. Let me know, first of all, if I'm being crazy. But if you're from Melbourne and you want to go help me locate Peter, tell me during the week. We'll set up a poll during the week of, am I deluded or is this funny? And we'll do it. Let's look for Peter together as a fat bird loving community. Well, it started off shaming, and now I think we're all kind of flipped and we're on board. But anyway, let me know during the week if that sounds like something that could be achievable for us all to get out there with our binoculars. I don't know what else you need for bird watching. I've never bird watched before. I mean, I've spotted birds, like I've spotted fat birds, but I've never gone out with the intent to find a particular one. So also, if you're a bird watching expert or your parents do bird watching, let me know, because I know nothing about it. Let me know during the week. Give me some feedback on whether or not this is a good idea. I mean, if you guys have any other plans on how to get Peter on the podcast, be my guest. But this is really the last resort, and the only thing I can think of is coming to his home, knocking on his door and saying, "Why the flock did you ignore my message?" Okay? And that's one of the better bird jokes you'll hear all week. So I'm going to end the podcast there on that note. I hope to see you guys at the Perth and Adelaide shows this weekend. If you're from Perth and Adelaide, get down. Everyone from Sydney and Brisbane, I absolutely loved it, and the feedback was tremendous afterwards. So thank you guys all very much for coming. I'm going to be doing a show every single year from here on. It's my favorite thing to do in the world, and I had a ball. Traveling the country doing this shit, on a serious note, is seriously the coolest job in the world, and it's only possible for the people who come to the shows. So if you want to come and help out and support me and support my videos and stuff, coming to the shows is the best way to do it. I'd love to see you there, and thank you very much for listening, guys. Let me know if you've seen an animal wearing its lunch during the week. Let me know if you've seen a fat bird wearing its lunch. That's the ultimate, isn't it? That's as good as it gets. As good as it gets is Peter Pigeon wearing its lunch. I think I could die a happy man if I saw that. That'd be like, I don't know, that'd be like kissing the tip of Jesus's cock, or like eating a really good cookie. Both just great things. Anyway, so thank you guys very much for listening. Send in animals wearing their lunch, and I'll see you next week, and I'll see you at the shows, Adelaide and Perth. Catch.